Hi, I'm Jennifer Gilmour, and I'm an author and advocate for women in abusive relationships. Before on the Thought series, I would record it in selfie mode like this and try and be still, but I've invested in a tripod, so I'm going to place you down so that I can talk to you. Obviously, it's been quite some time since I have made a video in my Thought series, and I wanted to sort of cover probably nearly the last year. Well, maybe not the last year, especially the last 6 months since potentially before lockdown. Now, the reason I wanted to do this was just for a few reasons, really, because I have been reflecting on what has happened in lockdown. I have been thinking about how it's helped me and how it's not helped me, and the bad and the good from the whole experience, to be honest. I know we're not out of the woods yet, but obviously we're not restricted to staying in as much. Now, right at the beginning, when social distancing measures came into play, I actually wrote a blog post about the unsettling familiarity of social distancing. I spoke about, the triggers, the feelings, the unsettling of it, because for me, as somebody who has gone through domestic abuse, and for someone who used to be potentially locked in the house at times, it made me sort of look back to that situation, and I felt like I took a step back, to be honest. In that blog post I wrote really just exactly how I felt, especially those restrictions on the distance in the human contact, travelling, and the things that I felt that I just began in terms of freedom and was getting used to and finally gained that independence. And then it was like, no, back to reality, to where I was, maybe a few years ago in my mind. But obviously that isn't the situation. I have looked after myself. But what I did feel was important was for me to bring this forward and to share it, because I knew that I wouldn't be the only one feeling like it. Also in lockdown, I was obviously concerned about those people in an abusive relationship. I thought about what it would have been like for me if I'd have been still in that relationship. What would have happened? How would I have managed? How would it have changed for me? Would that abuse have gotten worse? How would have I coped with that situation? And I spoke to Sue Penner, who is the chief director of creative director of Rockpool, and we had this conversation, and it just fell into our concerns really over those people that are experiencing abuse, and that there is still this weight on the victim to escape. So we sort of talked about what we can do to look out for people in our community. So if you're a friend, a neighbour, somebody in the community that you see regularly, and what signs to look out for. So you can see that was put on my YouTube channel as well with a blog post, and you can watch that back. That was interesting. So we did that. And I have been working throughout lockdown, despite not have been able to put a video like this together. I have 3 children, they're back at school obviously, again with my own anxieties of them returning to school, but things have become a little easier with time and being able to do something like this and update you. Now there were 2 things that I wanted to mention, but I've got a couple more. So the other thing I wanted to mention is that within lockdown, I had experienced a really, really big trigger, and I can't go into detail too much as to why I was triggered, but I can say it was the worst experience of a trigger I have ever had. I went into a state where I was having flashbacks, I couldn't verbalise things, I was like stuck and I couldn't move. I didn't really know how to move, and it took me maybe about an hour to sort of come round to, where am I, what am I doing, and then I had this urge to get home really. Now I'm telling you this because I think it's really important to talk about the things that can trigger us, and also how we deal with them and what they can be like, but also because if this trigger had have happened years ago, when I first came out of an abusive relationship, I would have allowed that to consume my day-to-day life. So I wouldn't have been able to move forward. I would maybe be in my bed, not getting dressed, not making an effort in my appearance. I would have been going over it and over it and over it in my head. I wouldn't be able to have conversations with people or that were effective. I would have probably rang in sick if I was at work, because I was at work back then, and I wouldn't just not been able to function properly. So let's fast forward, because I'm not there. I'm here now. I have put lots of things into motion. I'm constantly helping myself in, taking steps forward. Now I was able to have that moment. It was a really big trigger. Usually they wouldn't last as long as an hour for me to come back round. But after that happened, I managed to not only get home, I got myself to a shop. I got myself some ice cream, some popcorn, some other junk food, and I then got home and watched a movie with my kids, because I just needed to park it just for a bit, just to give myself a break from this overwhelming experience. And it was the best thing I could have done, because I don't think I would have been able to come home in such a state and my 3 children look at me the way I was. So I was able to put it aside, and then it was up to me when I was going to bring it forward, when I was going to talk about it or address it. It wasn't going to, even if it was ever going to surface. But it didn't. It happened. I think it took days, weeks for me able to sort of physically talk about what had happened and tried to put it together. And spoke to my husband and I think a couple of other friends about it. But the difference there is that I was still able to carry on as normal with my day-to-day life. It didn't consume me. I packed it in my brain, ready to sort of break down when I needed to. And the only reason I was able to do that was because I've really worked on myself. And my first step after coming out of an abusive relationship, I went on to an awareness course and then realised what happened. And then I enrolled onto what is the Recovery Toolkit. And I've spoken so much about that before. You can watch the video. I'll try and pop it here or here so you can watch it back and see what my experiences of that programme was. But obviously that's no good if we're in lockdown and all these services are restricted. So not only the domestic abuse services, but we're looking at, even our routine dental health. Our GPs are really hard to get into. Our, mental health side of things, if we were getting regular counselling. Or how about any other service, even family support or anything. So it's not just the domestic abuse service that was affected, the domestic abuse sector, that was affected by lockdown. But there was some good that came out of it, because the Recovery Toolkit is obviously an in-person programme, but it could be made into a self-help book. And you've probably already seen that it is in fact a self-help book now. And I was honoured, delighted, thrilled to be asked to be a part of it. Well, I don't even have the words to explain to you how much it means to be involved in something that completely changed my life. I have no idea why I'm getting emotional, but it has done, and I've thanked Sue Penner herself many times before, and obviously the team around Rockpool, and I obviously believe in their work and their ethos of being trauma informed. Anyway, I'm going to get to the point. So I was invited to be a part of it, and of course I bit their hands off and said yes, because I really felt that I wanted to share my experiences and how it's helped me. And so my part to play in the book was to provide anecdotes for the Recovery Toolkit. And I went through each week as it's set as a programme and basically said, this is what I felt when I went to this session. This is what happened. This is what I thought. And thanks to looking after the notes and everything that I had, I was able to reference and go back to those and look at them as well. I'm one of those people who does a course and keeps everything because I know I'm going to need to reference it at some point. So I was a part of the Recovery Toolkit. It came out at the end of May. It means that anybody can access it. It's on Amazon. You can also get it from rockpool.life or head to jennifergilmour.com and find it that way. But here it is. It's the Recovery Toolkit program, a 12-week program to support your journey from domestic abuse, and it's meant to be read week by week. You're meant to follow it in that in those stages. I have heard a few people that are really eager to carry on reading, but it really is a part of the program to just stop, halt, reflect and take it in. So I just want to show you a bit of how it's set out. So this is the beginning of week 1. Before that, we've got information on what a domestic abusive relationship is, the official statement of what it is as well, because they may differ. It's also got a trigger warning in it, which I think is obviously really important. You do have to be in the right frame of mind to go on something like this or to read this, and in the right situation. And it's also got you know, an introduction and everything. Anyway, this is a week 1, and you are taken, this is called How We Think. You are taken through, it's done in bite-sized chunks. There's helpful diagrams. I'm just going to show you as an example so you know. And then it takes you through the thought diaries, which I'll get onto in a moment. It tells you a bit about that. And then this section that's in grey, an initial JG, that's me. So you can read the programme, but then also have the lived experienced thoughts and how I put the programme into action. Then we go on, and again, look at these nice bite-sized chunks. It's got remember, this is bullet points of what you need to remember. It's got an exercise, and then what I mentioned before, the thought diaries, which I filled out each week, are here. So you can actually do it in the book, or if you've downloaded it, you probably can use a write editor service, like a PDF thing, and write on it on that program. But that is like, it's made it accessible, and it means that even if originally you weren't able to go on the program, because I talk about it so much and people ask me how do I get on it, it means that you can now access it no matter where you are. And it's not just in the UK, it's even across the seas and wherever Amazon is, really. And I also wanted to read from this book. It's one of my anecdotes. It's my final anecdote, and it talks about what I've learned from the programme. I feel like it's really important because for those of you who've been on my journey have definitely seen the change and the difference it has had in me, and from where I was before to where I am now. So I'm going to read it anyway. So here it is, the Recovery Toolkit, and I'm on page 147, reading one of my anecdotes. Finally, thanks to this programme, I can understand what's happened to me and how to work to overcome the negative aspects. I'm starting to feel better about myself, and I'm already changing. I'm excited for my future. During this session, I looked back at the previous weeks. I had come to understand that many people are subjected to the same patterns of behaviour, and that no one thinks or knows beforehand that a relationship can be so unhealthy and soul destroying. If someone is in a relationship and the behaviour of their partner is abusive, they need to understand that the abuse they encounter is not their fault. They also need to understand that their partner's behaviour can't simply be changed by changing themselves. The programme has completely changed my life, and I wouldn't be where I am now with my positive mindset, health and the awareness I bring. Completing this programme was a huge achievement for me, and I'm proud of myself for having done so. At the time, I didn't tell the world. I only shared it with those close to me. If this programme was available to all who had experienced domestic abuse, it would free a lot of weight from their shoulders. It would also help prevent others from going into another abusive relationship. It's not easy being a survivor, and no one should underestimate the long-term effect. The dictionary definition of the word survivor is a person who copes well with difficulties in their life. And this epitomises my belief that however difficult, surviving is worth it on so many levels. So that's one of my anecdotes in the recovery toolkit, and quite an emotional one really. I think it shows just how much it has made a difference to me in my life. Anyway, I don't want to keep you any longer. I just wanted to give you a quick update. I will pop all of the information in the description in this video so you can link right through, but hopefully you're all keeping well. Please let me know how you're doing, and also if you find that the recovery toolkit has helped you as well. It would be really interesting to hear. And remember everybody, don't forget, together we are louder.